Hello, welcome back to Coaches Connected, and today's episode is a topic that I think will be useful to everyone, from young to old. Our topic today is becoming an OC, and joining us are two guys from two different parts of the country who are on that pathway at certain degrees and certain levels. So joining us today are our coach Paul Crockford and Adam Harris from the Olympians and the Shropshire Revolution, both on different levels of the path. So I'll let them introduce themselves. And just a quick run through on how long you've been coaching, boys. So I'll let you want to go. Off you go, boys. So who wants to go first can go.
Go on, I'll go for it. Adam Harris. So I've been at the Shropshire Revolution for 9 years, I think it was, and then I moved into coaching. This season coming up will be my third year. Well, I'll say third year. Obviously, last year was interrupted through COVID, but will be my third year. I'm wide receivers coach, and also this year been pushed towards the assistant offensive position as well, sort of for study to Andrew Morgan, who I believe you've had on before.
Yeah.
Right, hi, my name's Paul Crockford. So I'm at the London O's. I've been coaching football for, I think it's 6 or 7 years now. I've sort of floated between positional groups, and my last season I was DC for a university team. I've never been OC. The only sort of offensive side of the ball I've had is a little bit of coaching the O-line when I was with the Olympians this year.
So have you both been, obviously coached them all, you've both been positional coaches for quite a long time in terms of your development, so to say. So you've coached O-line, Paul. I know Adam's coached with me, and we've usually put him at receiver. Last year I put him at quarterback. So we're just trying to build the resume. Are you guys that want to go around the carousel, or do you want to stick to one particular group? Because obviously, you've had that year coaching DC, Paul. That's a feather to the bow right there. You know what I mean? That's a different way of looking at things. But are you two guys that want to stay in one spot and learn that spot, or would you like to go around the carousel and learn the other positions before you took the head coaching job, or was that something that just falls into your lap, sort of thing?
I mean, I know for myself, I would want to be in one sort of position before. I don't want to bounce around too much. I do want to try and learn as much as I can. And I sort of gravitated towards the defensive side of the ball before because it was what I knew.
You play defense.
That was what.
You play defense.
I only ever played one season with the Kent Exiles, and I played linebacker for those guys, mainly special teams player. But I knew more about the defense than I did offense, if I'm honest, in terms of that, because there was so much to offense to learn. I just didn't feel I was in the right position to try and do that.
Yeah, for myself, it's, I mean, I was always a wide receiver. Wide receiver's just what I know, and the passing game side of things. I definitely want to throw myself into the ground game. I know that's an area that I need to learn more of, particularly with the line side of things. But I think as a coach point of view, I'll always gravitate to the receivers, to the passing game. But that's just where I've gone and what I enjoyed most. So, yeah.
I do think that as a coach, you do gravitate to a little bit to where you played, where Paul started. And I know Adam's pathway has always been like as a wide receiver and then a wide receiver coach. And last year I put him with QB coach to give him something else to learn about. But you kind of choose your pathway on where you're playing. So I applaud Paul for taking a year going the other way, because I don't fancy that.
Yeah,
the defensive coach is watching, I don't care. I don't fancy that. You can phone all you want. So the next question, really, following from that, is why do you want to become an RC, or why do you feel you want to become an RC? What's your thinking behind that, guys? Is that natural progression, or is it something like the calling of the game calling excites you, the building of the playbook excites you? What certain aspects of it excite you about becoming an offensive coordinator?
The thing that excites me the most is obviously coming from a defensive side. I like to think I know a little bit about the defensive side, and I want to stop them. I want to, the defense throws something at me. I want to say, well, look, I can throw this at you. You can't. So I want to be able to beat a defense. That's why I wanted to be OC, essentially. I wanted to help lead that offensive unit in just no matter what we came up against, no matter how the defensive line, no matter what they threw at us, we were able to answer it.
For me, I've always enjoyed the strategy aspect of so like particularly like with the playbook creation, the play call, and that as an offensive coordinator, that sort of one-on-one battle you have against. You know, he's trying to pick you apart, you're trying to pick him apart, and just sort of that element to it really attracts me quite a lot. Seeing something that will go out there and work in front of your eyes.
Valid. I agree with both sides. And follow up on that, how do you feel your journey's going so far? You know, you've been coaching for like 5 or 6 years apiece now, roughly. How do you think your journey's going so far? Do you think you're on the track you want to be on? Do you think you're behind where you should be? How do you feel that journey's taking you so far? Do you think you're in a good place right now?
I mean, yeah, for myself, I do. Coming into it so fresh, I've had some good coaches around me with Coach Marina, who have been helping me learn sort of from the ground up, as it were, learning from those basics. I'm not trying to learn too much too quickly because there's so much to it.
Yep.
So we've started right from the beginning, you know, from the ground up, from looking at defenses and seeing what sort of alignments, you know, things like that, before I've even got to really get to the art of the play calling side of things yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy again with my progress. It's slow steps, isn't it? I know that first year with yourself, Dave, and it was just that positional aspect of just coaching receivers, trying to come up with new drills, keep it interesting and fun, and then I just like to try and progress through now. I recognise that this year I'm going to have to work with Andrew quite a bit on sort of, you know, defensive management, play calling. Again, put that more learning time into perhaps the O-line side of things, because I recognise that that's where I'm lacking in knowledge a bit. But yeah, I think so far it's going in the right direction.
Paul, are you as a first year OC? You're not technically got into it yet because the COVID hit you and took it off you. But how much input have you had into that offense so far down the line, or are you just literally?
I mean, yeah. So Coach Murray and myself, you know, we've spoken at quite great length about things, you know, because when I was we discussed the playbook that we were going to go with and the plays. There were lots of questions I had in regards to certain things, certain, you know, blocking schemes, certain alignments, and how we were going to run things. I mean, we've been pretty good in terms of the sense that, you know, he sort of allowed me to put my staple on some things in terms of some terminology and bringing in some, you know, just for instance, one of our offensive line blocking schemes, you know, bringing one in that I like and that I'm sort of comfortable with as well. So it's been a good mix. It's not been like a dictatorship where I've had everything just you're doing this and you're doing that.
Yes.
You know, we've definitely sort of rolled with each other on that one.
It's a happy medium so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that's going to bring me on to my next question, to be honest with you guys. My next question is do you feel the coaches around you on your journey so far are helping you to prepare to take that next step? And if they are, how? And that can go back the 5 years you've been coaching or etc. Do you feel you've been getting enough help for you to take those steps, or do you feel like you're literally just swimming, you know, treading water, so to speak? I
think from my point of view, so obviously my first couple of years with yourself, so it's great to have you talking to me about how you were thinking, what pathways you're going down, why you were calling, for example, or why we were installing it, how we were. And that was good, just getting the mind going. So definitely from that point of view. Now I've got Andrew Morgan. I know we've already had some like behind the scenes meetings, and from that he's sort of not even giving me the answers now. He's testing me in terms of why are you doing it, what would you do, what are you taking from this playbook, just checking that, pushing me to get my understanding to where he is, as obviously he's the creator of it. But equally, I think you could quite easily end up treading water if you don't push. That you got to keep pushing yourself, especially in sort of Britain where, you know, we train once a week or twice a week. You know, if you don't put any background time in, then you will just be left there. So yeah, you've got to keep giving yourself that pick up the backside to keep working hard, keep pushing, developing new things and learning.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, in terms of what I've been getting from the guys that I'm working with at the moment, it's been, I can't fault it at the moment. I think we're going at a good pace from where I've come from. I think they've really sort of took to that as well. They've been very, very understanding and very helpful of, I'm fresh. I'm brand new to this, so they're not, like Adam just said, you could get lost in it quite easily. There's so much to it. They're not trying to steam ahead and do everything before I've even caught up, So it's been great so far.
One of the things that I've always, hopefully, I mean, Adam will tell you yes or no, but one of the things that I've always tried to do with all the coaches when they're under my offensive umbrella is that I want to give them a taste of what it is to be in charge. So, like, in Adam's case, I gave him, every time he did something, I gave him more responsibility. But, like, there'd be times where I get every coach to speak after practice. And, whether what position they were coaching, but they would speak to the whole offense. Because I'm not sure you're ever ready to speak to 45 people. That's a daunting responsibility. I think unless you get that practice in, especially when guys like and they won't take the piss out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you're a guy in a team that they really won't take the piss out of you too much while you're learning the ropes. So getting the guys to, speak after practice, talk to the team, and get used to speaking and being surrounded by a bunch of huge men, especially when you've not won, is not an easy task to take. So anything that can help you guys like that, I think some of those things get overlooked because all we think about is X and O's, and we don't really prepare you for the other aspects of it. And like certain things like calling plays and having Adam in my ear on a game day, it's more helpful for him than for me. But I used to love doing it, and sometimes you couldn't do it because one time is the flipping paramedic and God knows what else happens.
Yeah.
But it's those are the things that it was. So I hope that the coaches around us at my experience are trying to pass on more than just a playbook and more than just an X and O standpoint. There's a lot more to it. You know what I mean? It's a lot more to being a coach than just writing a playbook and drawing a playbook. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I know with yourself, Dave, that after the first season we did, where you were like getting me to write the feedback forms for all the players in terms of what they did well, what they haven't done well, etc. That was a great thing for me to sit there and just sort of look at where have we come from, where have we gone. And as a player, I never had that really. I never had something written down saying, this is what we did well and worked on. And so even just little things like that, I'll probably always take with me now when I'm coaching.
I like that. But that was our point, was that we wanted, because also another thing that we did, I did, is that I let my guys coach their guys. So if they were the wide receiver coach, I would not interfere. I would speak to him directly in the coaches group, but I would not be in the wide receivers group. I would let him totally own that. So he's not overall then. It's not because somebody looking over his shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, he leads that group, and it's on him. And if he's got a problem, he'll come and see me. And it worked out to our advantage last time. So I think there's a certain aspect of it where, and if some guys are listening to this and can take that away, please do. That's what it's here for. We're not trying to keep anything. The next question is, as we pass that on, is what do you feel is has been the toughest aspect so far about becoming an offensive coordinator? Is it the actual, as Paul says earlier on, is that when you look at an offense and see what it does, is that daunting? Looking at what we're going to do to make this work, is that a daunting fact? Or is just the fact that I'm actually quite nervous about doing all these things? Is there a certain thing that you think, this has been the toughest part of the journey so far for me? And don't forget, neither of you called the game yet. Neither of you actually been in the pleasure of being down 40-0. You've not had that pleasure.
That's for me. I mean, one of the hardest parts for me is, although I'm still at the beginning of my journey, thinking about the whole play calling. It's an art in itself. Knowing we've got plays, knowing what to call, when to call it, down and distances. That situational awareness, like that we just spoke. It only comes with the practice, and trying to learn that off of my head it has been the most difficult thing that I've done so far. Most definitely.
Yeah, we said, you can get overwhelmed with it all. I think it's also just that as well. The game management side, definitely, it's not something you can just learn from a book. I don't think it like you've just said, it's when you're in there. I think it's also recognising that you're not going to learn everything straight away in the first year, and it's accepting that, all right, I'm going to have to learn so much of this and so much of that initially, and then we can start, digging deeper into it. But yeah, I'd agree with Paul. Right?
Do you think then that's what I'm thinking there? Do you think that we do enough as a veteran, I'll say, for you in terms of preparing you to call games? Because I'm not. If I was to hand on heart say, I'm not sure we do. Honestly, I think that I know that in the year coming that we didn't have in 2020, I had plans to let Adam call halves and quarters and stuff because he was already developing it along the way. And the ideal thing was I wanted him to take over for me when I stepped away, eventually. But obviously can't put away from that. But I don't feel that we do enough to prepare you for actually calling the game. That's fair? You're not being harsh on us as coordinators? You feel like you're getting the road?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel it's a little bit harsh on yourselves, I feel, because it's one of those things that it's really hard to teach unless you do it, because it's all well and good that you could speak to as many offensive coordinators you want, and they always know the next step because they've been in it, so they always know the answer to the question. But then trying to program that into our brains is completely something different. We have to process it our own way and go through our own thoughts about things, So it's one of those things where, like you just said, a similar thing to talking to a big group of people. We have to do it to get used to it. You can say, go and say this to them, and you could tell us exactly what to say, but the minute we get in front of them, we freeze. That's not because you guys necessarily haven't done enough, but that's because we're not comfortable there.
Yeah, spot on. I know like what we did last year and stuff, you'd let me call plays in training and things like that, but you can do that as much as you want. It's still not game situation. It's still not under that pressure, is it? That spotlight of the clock ticking in the background, and having to make quick decisions and stuff, which you can't replicate until you do it, can you? So yeah, I think equally don't be so harsh on yourselves. It's just something that'll happen when it happens, isn't it?
The problem you've got is that in a season you have to win games still, right? So we're trying to well, for me, you're trying to develop, but also when you're at a program that's want to win and not just a pub team dick about on a Sunday, you want to win games as well. So you've got to get that fine balance. And sometimes that balance isn't there when every game is like 21-20. It's a difficult thing to have, which is why sometimes I do like the approach of where teams have B teams, or you can squeeze in 2 or 3 friendlies pre-season, and maybe one of those friendlies is, well, we're going to let Paul or Adam run this today and see how they get on, just to give them the thing. And I know for a fact that some offensive coordinators will probably have a problem with that, and then the rain's over for the whole game. But I think we're going to have to at some point. Is build it up and build it up and build it up till you pass it on. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is basically giving our jobs up to you. Yeah. And you've got to have a mindset that I'm not sure people think that have right now. But that's always been my mindset, and I know that whoever knows me will say, he's always said that, because my mindset is I'm always replacing me wherever I am. I spoke to Adam about it before, but you've got to have that mindset where it's for the greater good and it's for the good of the team long term. Because I might not be there for 7 years, but Adam has been in his one team for 7 or 8 years. He was there when I was coaching the first time around. He was playing for them, and he was coaching there. And I don't know how long you've been at the Owls, Paul, but it might be the same for you. If you've been there for a long time, you're not likely going to move, are you? You've got no intention to move really if you've got that dedication and commitment to that team. So Adam's going to be there. It's the same with Coach Holsky, the ref. He's not going to go nowhere else, even though he's taking a year off now. He's not going to go nowhere else. It's same as Murray, and they always come back. It's their team, isn't it? It's their team, and they're going to come back. Okay. My next question is: how are you preparing for your upcoming job and life? Because you just take over your life. I'm not going to lie. Life as an offensive coordinator. How are you preparing for that? Because obviously some of it can't be just waiting on a Sunday to practice. You know, it's like how are you developing yourselves? What do you do?
I mean, I know for us outside of the practices on Sundays, we have our staff meetings as well via Zoom and things like that going over. We break down usually a couple of plays for, say, over the course of 2 weeks. We don't try and rush through it. We go through each one individually. You know, I know myself away from the practice and even those meetings, I do go over the playbook and make sure, you know, I familiarize myself with the plays. Learning them was another challenge for myself as well, making sure I had, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to teach someone something and then it's completely wrong to what they're looking at in the playbook. So, you know, myself, I would jot stuff down. I would turn the playbook over, draw up the play, making sure I've got my blocking scheme all correct. And then I would flip it back over and see how I matched it up, you know, and if I'm on the right path. That's how I develop myself with that.
Yeah, for me, I know, like, obviously the last few years we did a bit of work, didn't we, Dave? Even things like creating like that play calling sheet that we were going to bring in last year. That was involved with having plenty of meetings between us. I know this year we've all had like a chat with Alistair Jarvis, DC, at Shropshire, who did quite a good sort of defensive 101 playbook kind of thing. So getting me thinking in my mindset of how are defence looking, how are they creating their playbooks, which was absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you. A lot of things that you wouldn't think of until you're on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, a lot of that sort of stuff. And now I know with this year, Andrew Morgan's going to be pushing me. This is nature, isn't it? But he's going to push me all year this year and keep developing it. So yeah, a lot of things like that going on. I know after a chat we had last year, Dave, I think it was last year, about how you sort of saying in terms of creating a playbook, you'll go through your past ones and take the bits that you like and stuff, which I did. After that, I went through all the playbooks I've had since I've joined the row and just started collating them together so I can start picking the pieces out that I like of each bit and trying to create my own sort of one together.
That was going to be my next follow-on question. You've already half answered it, Adam, but you can answer it again in a minute anyway. But it was like, have you actually started there in your self-development in terms of building your own playbook? What kind of offense do you want to run? Because for me, I have no problem. Like, let's say if you take on Murray's system, hands down, book and everything. I have no problem with that. I like it when people carry on. And I think if it's what you know and it's what you get into, then you should carry on with what you know, and then you can mix in your own bits down the road. You know, but some people just want to begin to build a playbook, take what they want from other things, and there's no right or wrong way. You got to do what's best for you. But it's like, have you began to thought about the playbook aspect of it, and like the things like building your own terminology and the verbiage you're going to use if you get the chance to do things your own way. Have you begun to work those processes down? Because the biggest tip I can give any up-and-coming coach is get yourself a notepad and just start to write. Because by the end of 1 year, it'll be 3/4 full. I've got that many notepads around this house. That's full of football stuff. You wouldn't believe it, because I'll have an idea, I'll scribble it down, I'll forget about it, and I'll come back up like, oh yeah, I remember doing that now. 6 months later. So it's just like you have those things. I always say, I have a master playbook that's on the computer. And that may have like 100 plays in. I'll never use them, but I like to jot them down. And if I ever think I might actually use that one day, I can pull it up and have a look. But for the most part, I just get creative with it when I'm jotting stuff down in the thingy. So are you at that point in time now where you feel you are building playbooks, looking at building your own verbiage and terminology, you know, getting down to the nitty gritty of it? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be the guys that are going to deliver it. As you said yourself, Paul, you can't go out there and teach something that you don't know. That's the biggest thing for me. You can't. None of us can teach something we don't know. And if we just see a play on YouTube and think, I'm going to run that, it ain't going to work. I can assure you that, because at some point we've all done it. And if you haven't done it yet, you will. Because you'll watch a game on Sunday or watch a game on Saturday and go, fucking hell, that was great. I'm going to run that, and then it ends up going for minus 50 yards and you don't run it again. But how are you guys feeling about that verbiage playbook aspect of your career so far?
I mean, for me, so far in terms of the verbiage and the terminology, I've had a good input in terms of what we can use for certain things, play calling, O-line blocking scheme, things like that. If we're talking about am I ready to start delving into the world of different I don't think I am, or different playbooks right at this moment.
Yep.
I like the playbook we've got at the moment.
Yep.
Coach Murray's already said to me there's definitely room for tweaks. So I definitely have a bit of creative freedom in terms of, okay, how about we try this from this formation? Not going away from it completely, but just adding a few little twists to it.
Yep.
Things like that. That would be my biggest thing, because like you sort of touched on as well, I'm a big believer myself in running a playbook that fits our personnel as well as other things, because we can, like you just said, we can see whatever we want and we can try and run whatever we want, but if we don't have the personnel to run it, there's no point. So I don't think I'm quite at that point yet of looking through loads of playbooks and deciphering what I want yet.
That's actually one of the biggest yeses for any offensive coordinator when you come through, is you have to adjust your playbook to fit your personnel. You have to. Because if you go rigid and you go, we're a full wide receiver team, and you have two and you have two fullbacks, what's the point? You have to be able to mix and match, and that just comes with. I think the thing that so far I've got from this episode, this talk, looking at it from you guys, it's just experience, isn't it, guys? It's all you're really looking for and really towards is getting that experience. And if we can provide you with that experience, then I think the UK game will be a much better place. We've got young guys like yourself taking the mantle for the next 10, 15 years. What's your thoughts on the playbook, Adam? Are you getting on with yours?
Yeah, well, I say I got to the point of sort of putting pen to paper as such and creating an actual playbook. I've just been gathering old ones, looking through what I like. I know in my head, it's like going down to sort of coaching receivers. When I came into receivers, I wanted to do something fresh and different and just try and keep them engaged each week that we're there. And I'd like to do the same thing with my playbook, where it's just a little bit different. It's, something engaging, something that'll, again, tailor towards your personnel that you've got, like Paul said. But yeah, I'm not at that stage myself yet anyway.
One of the things that I did last year, well, I keep saying last year, it's 19 now, we've been a year, but I made every person on our staff go to the convention. That was one of the big things. Do you frequent the convention as well, Paul? Is that something that you were made to do at the Olympians?
Not necessarily made to do, but I did go myself for my own sort of learning experience. I believe I went to the last two.
I feel that with the younger guys, if you say it's not mandatory, they won't go. Whereas, like, when I was there, I was like, you've got to go. There's no so much about it. And, we took literally a staff of 7 to the convention, which is probably the most that the Revolution ever took. And I can't speak for Adam, but I felt like they all enjoyed it and probably learned something. So, I think as like your own development goes along, I'm sure that you keep going to the conventions and you'll pick some up. Even if it's not from a talk, if it's not from a speaker, it may be some guy from Scunthorpe or Sheffield or Glasgow that you talk to randomly. It could be anybody. So, going to the convention is a big thing. Do you guys, are you big on like watching YouTube for ideas and different stuff? Because normally I respect watching offenses on YouTube for me, even though I'm not going to run them. I just like to learn about them. And I think that's one of the things that the older you get, you just want to like eat knowledge of different stuff.
And there's different ways people do things, right? That's similar to what you might run, but they might phrase it in a different way, or they might use different. So yeah, there's definitely different things you can pick up from it, even if you're not just picking up, like you just said, you're not going to run that. But there might be, he said something quite interesting there. Maybe I can phrase it a similar way.
That is so true.
Yeah, the same. It also is looking at coaching techniques and different drills to do, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff out there to look at, really, to follow, especially on like Twitter and YouTube.
Drills at that point, because I think one of the things that the new coaches, especially the coaches that aren't given a drill book and stuff, they're just told, okay, you're coaching receivers this year, off you go. What are you going to do? So I think YouTube is really valuable for looking at drills for your units, and I think that you probably should go back to your LC at some point and say, I'm thinking of running these drills. What do you think? And he'll say, yeah, that they fit us and whatnot. And that sparks a conversation. Then you know what I mean, rather than because LCs will give you some leeway. They don't, most of them will. Like they'll give you something to own yourself. So you want to be able to just run it and say, you know what, yeah, I'm doing this for the good of the team and we're working. You don't want to run a drill. Let's say you're running a 14-yard comeback and you never run a 14-yard comeback in the playbook. What's the point of running the drill, right? So you've got your drills have got to fit the week. And I think one of the things that Adam learned pretty fast. I'm not sure do you coach a positional coach as well, Paul, or are you just LC right there?
I do O-line as well.
Okay. But one of the things that Adam learned pretty fast is that if we were installing one pass play on a Sunday, his drills and his things have to fit what we were installing. There's no point in him running like teaching a slant when we're running all inches. But it's things like that where he did it as a player, so it's like it's easy to think of, but not everybody does. So it's like it's having those drills in line with what you're running. So I'm assuming that you do that at the O's too, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just gonna say, I think that's along those lines of something you learn for yourself as an OC. Like you wanna allow your positional coaches to sort of develop their own sense of self, but at the same time, you then have to take that firm hand with it as well, the strong hand, and just say, look, this isn't what we need to be running right now. We need to be doing this. Yeah. You can't just let them. Essentially, can't just let people do what they want sometimes, and you have to be ready to have that serious, frank conversation with people.
I think from my own perspective, that is something I haven't really had much to think about in terms of planning a pre-season's training. So sort of saying like, by this date we want to have covered this much or got this in, or like if you threw me in now, I'd be a bit like, God, okay, so by the end of January we want this, or the end of February we want this. So that's something that I haven't really put much thought to myself. But again, because I've not had to, I guess I've always had like you, Dave, telling me, right, so 2 weeks time we're going to be doing this drill, these sets of plays or whatever. So that's definitely some food for thought and stuff.
Do you both feel that like your coaches where you're at and where you've been at have been open to just to talk to you at any point in time? I know I've always said my door's always open, and that's been across the board from everything that I've been at, and but do you feel like the doors are always open for you to speak to for like your not just your OCs but your head coaches stuff? Do you feel like the doors are open for you if you need to talk? They're there.
Yeah, for me, definitely 100%. I think I'm the youngest coach on the squad, so sort of coming in, it was sort of in the back of my mind. I was always a little bit preemptive, like, these, they've got a lot more experience than me. They played at a good level, and they're a lot higher. How am I gonna come in and work with these people? Are they gonna listen to me because I'm just like this fresh guy walking in? But no, they've all been great. I must admit, they've all been really good.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, always have it. So obviously, yourself, Dave, I was always on the phone to you, over the last couple of years. I've got to say now with Andrew Morgan, so I was chatting to him earlier on, asking him stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Right, we are running out of time, so I've got one last question for the pair of you, and it's as quick as you can. And it would just be, now you're on your pathway getting there. What's one little bit of advice you would give to a very first year coach? What's that one bit of advice you would pass on to somebody who's just starting their coaching journey tomorrow?
I guess it's quite a reused one, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. It could seem something stupid, but if you're unsure of it, don't pretend like you're sure, because you will get found out in the end as well if you don't know certain things, or if you're sort of trying to cover up and mask it. It will come out in the end. Just never be afraid of that.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. That's what I always say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same. It's that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Lean on the people you need. Approachable as well to your players, because you're amazed how much that'll go by just having your players trust for them to be able to come to you with things. A lot of the time,
Country Wi-Fi, dude.
Oh, sorry, man.
It's all right. You're breaking up. It's good. You want to say that again?
Get that dial on the go. I was just saying, like, being approachable. So, yeah, letting the
I do agree
players
with
come
that.
to
I do
you.
agree.
And
Approachable.
I said a lot of the time they'll come up with a lot of the solutions for you, as long as they feel comfortable enough to tell you.
The piece of advice that I've always given is be yourself, boys. If you be yourself and you've already the natural you, people will gravitate to you as well, but 9 times out of 10 they will. Just, you know, they can see a genuine guy. And if you're a genuine guy and you're trying your very best, you'll go a long way, boys. You'll go a long way. And listen to the parents today, I think you both put your heads switches on and you're in the right track of your journey, boys. We are running out of time. We've got about a minute left. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank both of you for coming on. I know it's a big step and it's not easy to come on board, but as I've said before, that I'm trying to give you guys an avenue. You know, these are things that you're gonna have to do when you go on Zoom meetings and you're talking to your offense. So it's just preparing you for stuff down the line. So I want to thank you both for coming on and giving your answers and being as real as honest as you could be. I wish you both the very best in your journeys, and I'm sure that when I see you on the sideline, I'll see you on some film at some point. But for today, gents, take care, and I wish you all the best. I'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Take care. Look
Thank
after
you.
yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.